typical way that I start off a VOD review, I don't know if you've figured out from the other ones, is that I'll ask whether there was anything that you did, your team was doing, or the enemy team was doing that was giving you trouble in, any area.
So I think this one was kind of rough because this is kind of outside my normal play, like how I typically play. So I think not shot calling was a huge issue because I had a Doomfist, a Winston, and a Diva that
Ooh,
nobody played as a team. And so
ooh.
it's not like I have a problem with the comp. I mean, like, it's not optimal for me, but the thing is it was like everybody was trying to 1v1 their own match. And I don't think that reflects my gameplay as much as the matchup. But
Okay.
I don't know what to do with that. Like, I was just trying to make sure that I don't know where to go with that. I think I don't know. We'll see what you say.
So everybody was scrambled and you're struggling with that?
Uh, yeah, I think I made the mistake of deciding not to be vocal and try to shot call. And I really wanted to see whether or not my gameplay was what's holding me back. Like, if it's my mechanical skill or positioning, like, those I think are two things that are, like, you can look at it and say, man, that needs work. And I feel like my teamwork is strong, and I feel like that's my crutch. So I really am more interested in just finding out, is it my positioning that's bad or my mechanical skill? I don't
Okay.
know. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like,
It
I think,
does. It sort of does. I will say that having team play as a crutch, like you said, is both sort of correct and also not correct. You can be mechanically gifted, but if you're not able to communicate with your team, you can only get so far, and vice versa. So when I say, like, I don't want people in a duo to be carried by their duo, if there's somebody who duos with a bunch of different people all the time, that's different than having one strict duo, because that person who duos all the time, that means that they're good with communicating with a wide variety of people, and
yeah,
that those communication skills, whether it's like actually calling out things or just working with people, those are skills. I can't really coach that as well, but they're skills that exist and they're important to know. It's like you saying that you avoided shot calling. It does place much more of an emphasis on your mechanical skill and your game sense and your decision making on like a solo level, but
yeah.
in the future you don't necessarily need to. It'd be like if I upped my sensitivity by 4 times just because I don't want to use aim as a crutch. It's sort of like that, but also sort of not.
Yeah, no, I get where you're going. Yeah, I was just trying to, I don't know. I wanted to see, I really want to see about positioning, because I think positioning is one of those things. Like, if you can get your positioning down really well, that will, it gives you a lot of leeway. I think when you watch, like, when I watch streamers and things like that, I usually notice that mechanical skill isn't what separates people. It's usually the decision making and
Mm-hmm.
their positioning that separates them.
Yep.
Um,
I'm
so
glad you see that.
I guess I would like to, and in my head, like, it's easy to say, like, look back and go, well, that was a mistake. But in the moment, I'm trying to learn how in the moment to already have those decisions made.
Yeah, there you
And I
go.
think I have a few scripts already planned, but there's always room for
What
improvement.
do you mean
So
by
that's one
scripts?
thing.
I want to
So
stop you
like,
there.
let's say, like, it depends on the map. Like, this map, I know, like, there's certain high grounds that I like. There's certain characters that I know that I can get away with certain things. Like, if you can't one shot me on Mercy, I can be really gutsy on and I get a really gutsy res, and I felt safe doing it, and I knew I was safe. I don't think it was of any value, but I knew that they couldn't kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like, the same with, like positioning. Sometimes if they don't have certain characters, uh, I could be aggressive with my positioning, or kind of like the other thing. Like, if they have a widow, I need to watch my sightlines. Like, I played with a guy who said he was like 4K or something like that, and he was like, "Come to me," and I was like, "Dude, I'm sightline. I can't get to you. Like, you need to come to me, or you need to bubble me, and I'll guardian angel to you. Like, I can't clear that distance." And he flamed me basically, and he was like, "Don't respect her." And the thing is I don't think it's a good idea to say, well, they're this elo, so they can't aim. There's a lot of things that hold an individual back other than just mechanical skill. if that makes any sense. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I'll say that I've definitely been on that Widow side of things and telling somebody to do something that I know they can get away with. He might have been underestimating diamonds, but I think what you're bringing up is more of you're playing too cautious just because you know, like, you're saying, like, oh, they might be diamond, but that doesn't mean they can't aim. That's true, but you can learn that particular player. Like, if it was 30 seconds
yeah,
into a match and you don't know, that's fine, but the highest level players, they don't play against GMs or against top 500s or against the other Overwatch League team or against the other contender team. They just play against those players. Like, they can figure out what a player is good at and then play around that in particular. So that Widow, maybe she's god tier at aiming, but she's in diamond because she stands in the middle of choke. If you can figure
yeah,
that out and play around that, that's huge, rather than just knowing how to play around a Widow, for example.
yeah.
Also, I figure I should check. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I figure we should check. Are you looking at the VOD right now? Are you good there?
I think so.
Okay, so
I
if
had
I play it,
paused and
are you seeing it like do its thing now? Like
I think I'm behind.
maybe. Try reloading it because I've had it paused for a while. If you want me to resend you the link, I can.
No, I went straight to your Twitch channel.
Oh, okay, that works too. I sent you a link in the DMs
Oh, my bad.
to the straight up stream. So I do it two separate ways, right? I've got my Twitch stream in one like thing so that other people can watch.
Okay.
No notification. Hold on, you should have gotten one. Anyway, I have it set up so that yeah, see, this way you get it instantly rather than having to wait for stream to be behind. Because
Okay.
I do a lot of talking back and forth.
I don't have an account.
Oh, you can make one in half a second. It's so annoying how it makes you do that. Oh yeah, hold on. I was like, what? No notification? Yeah, if you only do one, it's not gonna do it. Because otherwise, you could just get 100 bits and then just spam 100 different notifications at one, and then it would just be destroying my ears with text to speech. Like, come on, man. I might be retarded, but I'm not that stupid. See, I see through you. Let me know whenever you're in, by the way. I have it paused at the hero select screen. It might say it's loading for you, but when it does, I'll just get it playing. Actually, I'll just leave it playing
Okay.
while you're doing that, so that...
I think I'm in. It looks like you're moving stuff around.
Yeah.
So right now it says like team, voice, and then question mark.
Yep. So the cool thing about this is you saw it kind of on stream. You might have seen the left-hand side, but I have tools like I can draw on the VOD.
Yep. Yep.
I can do all stuff like that. The best part, though, is since we're on Dorado, I can pull up stuff like this.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, I don't necessarily use it all the time, but I use it as a demonstration to show what I could do, because a lot of the times what I'll end up doing is I'll just be like, all right, this is a top-down view, this is this building, this is this one.
Yeah.
You're going this. It's just faster to do it that way, but
Yeah.
the top-down views are cool. So let's see, what on earth is your team comp like? Let's see, do we get another look at it?
I.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay.
It wasn't. I think we ended up getting Azaria.
Well, still though, man, that's a weird comp.
Yeah. And I'm not the kind of player that tells people what to do, because usually things, like I feel like sometimes people can only play one thing, and
Yeah.
that's not what I want to be. But I don't think me going, hey, you know what? Maybe Sombra's not the right pick here, because if that's all they can do, the game will be better if I
Yeah.
just let them do what they can do.
No, being that guy is terrible, because as the guy who's always on the receiving end of that, it's like I know who I can play. I'm at the same level as you, and I got to this level by playing these heroes. Like, I know like what maps I can and can't play these heroes on for the most part.
Yeah.
I just leave the Overwatch spray on everybody.
True. Their dominance.
I feel like I'm pro that.
Is this the cheeky res? It's not that cheeky.
No. I feel like it was pretty safe.
Yeah, that was pretty safe. The biggest thing I'll say right now, right off the top of the bat, is when you're going back and forth between these two buildings, watch where you Guardian Angel to. You know, you're stuck Guardian Angeling to your team, but watch where you put yourself after the fact. You're just sort of in the middle. You're going off to one side, which is good, but during this time, Ryan doesn't have his shield up. And if they have a Hanzo or a Widow or pretty much anything that can one-tap you from this range or get close to one-tapping you, you're exposing yourself, right? I'm not saying that you should hide in this corner constantly. I mean, you can and you won't die, but then you'll have no situational awareness. So ideally, you want to be peeking this corner rather than peeking your Reinhardt because his shield can drop at a moment's notice, and you don't necessarily want that because the enemy
Yeah.
DPS is going to be planning for that shield to drop and then pick you when it does. So the way for you to figure out to do that in the moment is to basically constantly be thinking to yourself, what can kill me and how do I avoid it? Oh, excuse me, Jesus. So in this case, as you're going from building to building, right? It's like right here,
Yeah.
you're safe. If a Genji hops on you, you can still guard into your team. That's fine. But as you go to these guys, right, you should be thinking, okay, do I like Guardian Bunny Hop around this corner? Do I Guardian Bunny Hop all the way down for some reason? Do I just like Guardian straight there and then sit in the middle? Do I go off to one side? Either or.
I actually thought of that. The reason I picked the, like, if you're looking at the left side,
Yeah.
is I had better sight lines to get to the people back on that building. And also, I was a little worried, depending on what they had, that they could have. I always get like nervous that I'm going to get one clip by like a Sombra or Tracer when I go into that building. And I figure being on the right side with the Zarya, she had a better chance of line of sight bubbling me. But I don't like. I don't know.
Okay,
like,
so
I didn't know what they had, so that's like one of my scripts. Like I usually play that corner because I feel like it's safer.
okay, so this corner in general you mean is safer?
To start off with until you know what they've got, and then I usually transition back. So,
I would argue, in fact, that where you're at right now is safer because if we go back, so when you said you have a better line of sight from over here to them, notice how when you're actually guarding to them, you do it over this little hill, which you can get from that little corner. But if they die over here, you have a better like actual vantage point from the other
Yeah.
side. And the biggest point,
Okay.
I'll wait for you to turn around here. That Hanzo would have been hilarious if he killed you. But notice how if you're in this corner and something jumps on you, there's absolutely nowhere you can go. You can only go either down or around and down. That is it. If you're over in this corner, you can go, this way, down, back the other way. There's a bunch of different ways you can go. And for Mercy, that is one of the biggest things. Sightlines are huge for you to guard into people. That is probably one of the best abilities in the game in terms of escape. But also where you're at in relation to that. If you're in a spot where you can see, like these two spots, right here and right here,
Yeah.
functionally, when you're guardian angeling to somebody down over here, they're essentially the same. But when you're not guardianing, that's when they're different. If you're on the right side right now, then you've got way more options and you're way safer because of those options. You're safe from headshots, you're safe from dives, you have the potential to like, the biggest thing honestly is if you're right here and the enemy team pushes around here, your team tries to move around this way and you're bringing up the rear and you could potentially be super split off and you don't ever want that. You always want to be in a spot where you're behind your team, i.e. your tanks, but also in a spot where you're not backed up against a wall or a corner or anything detrimental like that.
Okay.
So it's basically, if you want to think about it in-game, think about where am I now, where am I going to need to go, and where do I think I won't need to go? And the reason you need to think about where you won't need to go is because when you're thinking about where you don't need to go, I don't know how to explain it. It's so hard to explain when... Alright, so first of all, I'm going to pause myself there. I'll hopefully get back to that tangent. But this drop right here...
Yeah, I was really interested with it.
This drop right here is really dangerous.
Yeah, I actually in my notes I wrote down like I felt like the first like where are we at like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Like I should have been boosting the Zarya this whole time because I essentially did nothing other than a res.
Yep.
And so I built no ult charge and then because of the weird setup, like everybody's so far away and then like when they dove down, in my brain I'm thinking like even though Brig is like a backline, like a frontliner. I wasn't expecting her to be like that frontline. I don't know if that makes any sense. And so, like normally, I will look out like I think the most important thing is like make sure your healers are up, then your tanks, then your DPS, and then if you have a preference in res, go for a tank because it's just you're picking up more HP for the longer stall.
When you're going for res, you should res your other healer first if you can. If they're dead first.
Yeah.
I figured
yeah,
that was
healers-
implied, but I wanted to get that out of the way just in case.
Yeah, because that means you have more healing output.
Yeah.
But like that's like I play a lot of World of Warcraft and like raids a lot, so I usually think like as a healer I'm the most important person on the team,
You are.
and like my job is to not die, and so that's usually what I think. Like I have to be selfish and choose like if that person made a bad decision, I can't make a bad decision to cover that.
Yeah, the biggest thing for healers is A, don't die. But I don't remember who said it, but I heard it forever ago, and it's so true, and I'm glad I get to use the quote here, but it's basically, as a support player, you need to be more than just a health pack for your team, right? Like, they're super spread out, and you're worried about that, and they can come to you for healing, but that's being a health pack, right? Like, that's... Oh,
Yeah.
there's a little terrible health pack going. It doesn't matter. In this, you brought it up, but you should be damage boosting the Zarya to help her build up ult. Because you got the res off, that's solid. That's something you should have done. But right now, there's not a whole lot presenting itself to you. So your job is stay safe. That's one thing. And then get ult charge as fast as you can, which you can't really get from healing right now. You can damage boost a Fire Strike, and I suggest you do that. But I don't remember if he's Fire Striked yet or not.
He's Fire Strike, but he hasn't landed any of them. And he's been boosted when he was Fire Striking. But still, it was just no... I could have been boosting the Zarya, I think.
Well, if you damage boost, you should be damage boosting Zarya by default because she's going to be reliably landing it. And then going to damage boost the Rhine when he throws out a Fire Strike, or when it's about to land, I should say.
Yeah.
Because if you damage boost it for the beginning bit and then stop, it's not going to get the boost.
And the way I understand it is when the damage hits.
Yep.
So, like, if I see the Reinhardt throw it, I can clip onto him, and then whether it lands or not is an issue as long as I've grabbed him after I see it go out. Like, I don't have to be on him when he throws it.
Correct. Same thing with Pharah. So if you're pocketing a Pharah, just watch for when her things are going to land. But anyway, stick on somebody who's routine and constant and reliable, and then when Ryan throws out a Fire Strike, go to damage boost him. Don't damage boost him right now because he's dropping, but whatever. It's just because we're freeze framed right now. But if we watch this bit back, right? So you go from... It's just like your decision making right here, right? First of all, I'll ask... okay, so wait, hang on. You've got ult on 3, GA on 1. What are your... What? What are your key bindings like?
Oh, I have an MMO mouse, so I never take my hands off of AWS. The movement keys.
Okay,
so
I was gonna
1, 2,
say,
3,
I'm like,
4, 5.
what on earth? Okay.
Like, I have like 20 some odd buttons at my thumb's reach. So in my brain, I can't, like, moving my left hand doesn't work, but my right hand, like, I could basically type on this mouse. You know?
No, that makes
like,
sense. I just wanted to clear that up because I was like, what? Okay. So the next question, I was still on the concept of controls. What are your beam settings like? Do you have toggle beam or hold to beam?
Hold to beam.
Set it to toggle beam. That is probably the biggest thing I see Mercies need to do, is because if you're ever in a moment of downtime, it'll help with like carpal tunnel and stuff, but like if you're gonna be switching between a bunch of different people, it's so much faster to just go from looking at this Rhine to clicking on the Zarya to swap your beam rather than holding at the Rhine, letting go, looking over, and then holding again. It's just so much faster to click, and plus it makes your beam switching a lot easier because if you're looking at Rhine, you can click for heal and then click for damage boost, and you can switch between them really, really fast.
Yeah, this was muddy because I missed the beam on the brig.
Yep, if you miss a beam on somebody with toggle beam, it's like if you're stuck on the Rhine and you like try and healing off somebody else and just miss them somehow, like it just feels a lot better. It's a lot easier to control. Even if your beam does detach for whatever reason, you can just snap it back to somebody super easily. So that is by far, it'll take a little bit to get used to, but it is so huge. Like, oh my god, dude. Like all of this, the reason I ask is because these swaps are a little slow and weird. So I was like, you have to be on hold the beam where you need to like, because right now you're healing somebody, so you're holding M1, and to switch to damage you have to like switch to M2. Like I did it right there, holding M2. It just feels, oh god, it's so bad. Switch to toggle beam. End of rant. Switch to toggle beam, because then you can snap to the brig faster. In general, you didn't need to drop here. You could have just kept her topped off. But because, like, the way you should have done...
I actually clipped her, and then she died. And I was in panic mode. I was like, no, don't let her die. And then I basically just botted and walked off the edge. Like, I felt so bad. Like, I was like, well, I threw this, you know?
You sort of did, yeah. You could have stayed safe up
Yeah.
here. You could have, basically, you should have done a check, right? Your beam latches onto her. Okay, that's a good thing. Then you can say, okay, is she gonna live? If she does live, that's awesome. And then for her to keep living, do you need to drop down? Okay, great. Then do that. But currently, you're like, I'm gonna do these 3 separate things, like all in one go, regardless of what actually happens.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it. It was just
I hear you say, "Damn it," too, because you just fell
Yeah.
right into the whole team, and they're gonna dunk on you. Like, even
Yeah,
if they're the most uncoordinated team on planet Earth, like, they're still gonna kill you.
No, I agree. I knew like instantly. I was like, well, I lost this whole fight. Let's wait for our team here.
Y'all here? Let's get it.
Okay, so when you're peeking a top high ground like this, they have a Hanzo. As a Hanzo player, I would love to see a Mercy up here and try to drop down to her team, because that makes her that puts her in a super predictable movement arc, and I will pick that Mercy so fast, like she'd be done, right? You want to play safe, like right here you're playing safe, right? This is safe, almost too safe, but you're fine. And then as soon as your Rhine's gone, you're like, oh, wait. It's like your awareness has now kicked back in, because you're like, oh, I need to move somewhere. But in general, you don't want to be one step behind your Rhine. You want to be in step with your Rhine. You need to know where he's going and then where you're going to go to follow him. You don't want to have to make those decisions on the fly. The biggest thing about playing Mercy is not only do you need to know how to play Mercy, but you need to know how, or at least conceptually, how to play pretty much every other hero on your team, because that determines how you play as a Mercy. If your team is running like full dive, you need to know how you work with those dive heroes. If your team is running goats and you're playing Mercy for some reason, like, you need to know how that works. So follow your Rhine, but don't follow him like step by step. In general, you should have seen that people are grouped up, right? You can see that he's moving forward. You can see he takes a fire strike. He shouldn't care. Don't know why you're damage boosting the Brigitte. Not super important right now.
I usually damage boost on like if like I don't see any damage outgoing, just in case like she threw a flail.
Yeah.
Like I try to get as much out of as I can. I feel like that's one of my weak spots too. It's just like I get lazy and sometimes I'll just heal.
Yeah,
And
getting in a
just go
just
straight
heal
by.
mood is so bad. I'm glad you've caught that at least, but you can basically go over here, right? We'll start back from the beginning. This is all stuff that you can figure out situationally, right? Ryan Firestrike gets hit. Your Brigitte gets hit too somehow. Don't know how. You go to top with Ryan, which is good. Go to top off the Brigitte. That's good. But, excuse me, you can see that they're still moving forward. So you should be not moving into this building. You should be moving down off the other end of these stairs so that you still have this corner down here as cover, so that you can still back away and you can still guardian forward if you need to. Because right up here, you're presenting yourself spread eagle to the enemy team, and you don't ever want that. Like, even the fact that I thought you'd drop immediately. You can see this Genji right here. He's lubed up for you, right? He's ready. I hope he dives you, and I hope he kills you, because this position
No, I
is...
get away.
God damn it. But this position is so open. If he engages with his dash, it'll be why you get away. Does he? Okay, no, he just... Okay. But in general, you're doing a good job of staying outside of the fight rather than being, like, in it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I want to suggest that you try and avoid is guardianing through the engagement. If this is one team and this is the other and they've got like their skirmish going on, right? If you go straight through at like any point, that presents you, but like past here, you're safe. This is safe zone pretty much because that's your team. Past here though is enemy danger zone. That is not where you want to be. And so watch this guardian, right? We'll go all the way back to here. You hear the hammer down, like, coming. If your Rhine didn't block that shatter, you would have been...
Oh, yeah.
You just flew into that shatter. So what you can do is you can just cancel Guardian. Like, you can fly to, like, here, and then just stop. Because this is shatter zone, right? Depending on where he's aiming it. This is safe. That's good. But the fact that you have to cross that is not good. So cancel your Guardian to put you in a better spot. If you just let Guardian go full, like full beam, full bore all the time, then you're potentially putting yourself in a worse spot than you otherwise could have been.
Genji's on me pretty hard right here. Ray, can you turn around and get him off me?
See, if they had like a McCree or anything to like stun you other than like their Brig, which I think that's their Brig, yeah. Anything other than their Brig, like you could have been stunned out of any of those Guardians. If they had a good Widow or a good Hanzo, they could pick you out of some of those. In general, like you've got your team, enemy team. You can be anywhere like around here. You don't ever want to be in this zone. That's bad danger zone. You don't want to be in the middle of the donut, because if you're in the middle of the donut, then like they're gonna eat the donut around you, and then all that's left is you, and you're gonna die super fast. Which you can keep your team alive, but you don't, like right here, like that Guardian was so dangerous, so sketchy. Now that you're rotating around payload though, you see how you're in the back? They have to go through their entire team, or go through your entire team to get to you. That said, you're also close enough to where if Genji dives you again, you don't even really have to Guardian. You can do a little Guardian bunny hop or a Guardian launch if you want, but you're not so far away that you need to Guardian to your team.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh!
So this is where I res, where I knew
Oh! Oh,
so like,
dude.
I saw the Reinhardt charge, and I was like, yeah, they don't have the damage output to get me. But at that point, I was just, I was like, this is a lost fight.
But like, if that Hanzo ult was any other side, like look when you Guardian.
Reinhardt, swing away, buddy. I got you.
You hit Guardian before you could tell where the Hanzo ult was coming from, and while the Genji's blading. Those are two things, and the Nano and Rein. Like, those are three things that should all tell you no. Even though you got away with this res, you can say that, oh, I knew that I wouldn't die. But at this point, if you just showed me this screenshot and said, like, will this Mercy die? And they're like, oh, they're gardening to that dead person. Like, will they die? I'd be like, yeah, dude, they're going to die. There's like 6 different things that could kill them. And in theory, you should have died. I don't know how you got away with it, but you should have totally died. So going for, like, ballsy reses is fine.
I think the Genji's the only one that can actually take me here, though, right?
Yeah, but in the moment, you don't know. You just hear Hanzo ulting. You don't know if he's sending it straight on payload like he ends up. Because, like, look at where you are. You barely graze by that Hanzo ult. If it were any other angle, or if he ulted from here instead of here, that would have killed you. Yeah. In the moment, you didn't have enough information to decide whether you would live or die here. And as a Mercy, your job... This fight is... They've invested a lot into it, but it's not 100% lost for sure right now. It's pretty much lost, but not totally. Like, you could come back from it. You could, but mostly it's not. But if you die here, you really can't come back from it. You know? Basically, if you need to be 100% confident in the decisions you're making. You got away with that, but I don't think you should have. You died anyway.
I think,
like,
in my head, the only thing I was thinking was just delay out as long as possible. Like, I'd already, in my brain, was like, this is lost. Like, I was just sitting on the payload as long as I can, just to buy time.
Which is totally fine. After a lost fight, if you're buying time, especially before a checkpoint, that's cool. The problem I have with it, though, is that Guardian, you did buy time, but if you just stayed on cart to stick with the people who were still alive instead of trying to res the Brig, you could have bought yourself more time. And if you died to that Hanzo ult or the Genji Dragon Blade, you would have bought way less time. You know, because you would have just Guardianed into a Hanzo ult and died immediately, rather than trying to stall on cart.
Alright, guys, let's try to call out.
Okay, so I'm going to watch this engagement. So, you're strafing, which is good. You're moving around. That's good. However, you're not advancing towards a position, basically. So, watch this Hanzo 1v1 and tell me where you should have gone. Or I should say what you should have done.
Like, I mean, in my head, the only thing I did wrong there was I should have, I saw the Genji, and I should have called it out, and I was thinking, just play safe, because I wasn't sure where their team was.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I was thinking, just stay on this right wall, and I was listening to make sure nobody was flanking, was like my big thing.
That's good.
But I don't know. Other than that, like, I don't have an answer. Like, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. It's not a super big thing. You ended up doing the right thing anyway. I just wanted to see if you'd phrase it how I'm gonna phrase it. So right here, you see Genji. At this point, you're strafing into him. and then you only start backing away for like you should be heading for this corner a lot sooner in the fight than you do, because that's forcing him to either go for your Hanzo or go for you. And the way your Hanzo's going is he'll still have line of sight to you if the Genji does go for you. So it gives your Hanzo the space, and it corners the Genji in a corner, and it keeps you safe because right now he's going for the Hanzo and you're safe around this corner. But if you did it earlier, you just, you didn't get punished here, so it makes less sense. But in general, if you just went for that corner a little bit sooner, you would have played safer. It's one of those times like the res we were just talking about. You could have, you got away with it, but there will be times where you don't get away with it. And if you can prevent those times from happening, you'll be better off,
So just use people for appeal, built in.
Yeah.
Without even needing to call it. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, because right here, you can Guardian to 1, 2, eventually maybe 3 targets. That's plenty. Your Mercy, right? You can Guardian to pretty much anybody and end any engagement whenever you want on a 2-second cooldown. It's so good. And you don't need to be right next to people. He'll kill this Genji if you pocket him, unless the Genji deflects into his head or something. But, does he use dash? Yeah, he uses dash too. He has no escape tool. If you're keeping this Hanzo alive and keeping yourself safe, that's your primary goal. And so, right here, when you peek this corner, going up to this Rhine, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but, where you're playing right now is so out in the open. You need to get to that person, sure, but that was your Doomfist, right? So it's, as a Doomfist player, too, I can say that I don't want my Mercy to come to me. If they come to me, they're going to die. I have way more health. I have way more damage output. I have way more mobility. I will come to my Mercy or get to a spot where I know she can safely come to me. You don't want to be... I can see right here, 5 seconds, right? This is a 5-second difference. You tunnel onto your Doomfist, and you're like, I need to keep him up. I need to keep him up. And then once he ults, you're like, oh, I don't need to keep him up. But notice where you're at right now. There's a Hanzo behind who should be looking at you, killing you. There's about 600 people over here that could potentially be thinking about killing you. Let's see. There's a Genji who we just saw his shurikens from top left. I don't know where exactly. Okay, so he's just here. If Genji were up top, he could come back down and kill you. But in general, you're just way too out in the open. So right here... notice your Doomfist now dying. He was low before, you tunneled on him, he came back to you with his Meteor Strike, and you didn't top him back off. When he lands, look at how low his HP is. He's just got this little sliver and some shields. Just because, it's even still showing critical. I was going to say, even if it's not showing critical, you should pay attention to that and top him off. Doomfist is self-sustaining. If you top him off, he'll keep himself topped off. But if he's low, he's low. So at this point, you could 100% save your Doomfist, but you just don't. Even right here, where you're flying way too far in. You're flying... think of this as controlled airspace, right? Your team, enemy team, you're flying here. You still want to be with your team in general, or behind them if you can. Because right now, the enemies don't even need to work through your team to kill you. They can just kill you right off the bat for free. Yeah, you're Valking. Yeah, it's hard to hit you, but it's not that hard. It's doable. Hanzo hits you while you're rezzing. Another thing is, while you're on hold the beam, watch how long it takes you to switch to somebody who needs health. I mean, admittedly, there's a lot going on, and it's a little tricky, but... You should still...
it feels clunky. I'm definitely going to change it.
I can tell it feels so close. I don't even play Mercy all that often, but as soon as I picked her up, I was like, oh god. No, there has to be a better way, and thankfully there is.
I actually, yesterday, was seeing if sensitivity made a difference.
What sense do you play it?
At 100, which is what most... No. The beam.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant in-game sensitivity. I was like, what?
No, how sensitive the beam and Guardian Angel are. And so, I was like, well, if I turn it all the way down, does it make a difference? And it just... it just doesn't. It's so... I'll definitely give Toggle Beam a chance, because it's I was like, well, maybe this is just... It just feels clunky. Or maybe I'm being sensitive to it. I don't know.
I mean, it does feel clunky for sure. I would say that a beam sensitivity of 80 is better, because if you're at 100 and there's a big I'll try and pause it at a good moment, right? The difference between 180 is apparent right here when there's so many different people. Like, look where your crosshair is and look who, like, your guardian is looking at, right?
Yeah.
If you set your guardian and your beam to be the same sensitivity, if you can guardian to somebody, you can beam them. And right now, look at how far away they are from your crosshair. Like, that shouldn't be the case. It should be a buffer zone, in my opinion, of like this at max, so that you'd only have to pick between these two people rather than these three. And when there's a bunch of people together, you can't pick the target you actually want. So if you like, it's basically just hindering yourself. It's making yourself less accurate. I thought you meant like in-game sensitivity of 100. And I was like, what?
No, I play with fairly low sensitivity.
I can tell. How low?
I could launch the game and find out. Like
It's not that big.
9 or 10, maybe.
Do you know your DPI off the top of your head?
1100.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's pretty high. At least for someone like me who's a DPS player, that's pretty high. But I don't know what other Mercy players stick to. The biggest thing I've seen you do in relation to your sensitivity is you're not looking around very much. So this is 404. If we go back to like right here-ish, just like watch how little you're sort of looking around right now. This isn't the best example, but you'll see that you're just not situationally involved as much as you could be. Like your crosshair placement is probably the biggest thing. Like you're looking at the ground, you're like flicking to beam to people, that's fine. But like this whole time you're not engaged with your mouse very much. Maybe it's because you've got all your like thumb buttons, but
I think it's because I use the in-game, like you can look through walls, and I use that as like my, like a lot of times I just think like just stay out of the range of damage and then watch the fight play out. Because old Mercy, you could line of sight for 3 seconds, and that's one of the big ways I climbed, was I would just constantly pretty much hook onto somebody and then chill out for 3 seconds, and then come back. So I felt she was extremely broken, and now
she was.
So like now I think maybe that's where this is coming from. Is like before I didn't have to be involved, and maybe
and now you definitely do. And I think I'm gonna cut you off a bit, but I think if you decrease your sensitivity on your beam target and your guard angel, and you just focus on looking around more, like the more you're involved with a fight, the better you'll be equipped for these decisions, and the less you'll bot out. Like when you bot it out going for the Brigitte, if you're looking around like mad, even if you're not like used to doing it, just the fact that you're moving your mouse and staying engaged, like with your hand, it's part of being involved in the game. And if you like, God, I don't know how to say it. Like a lot of Mercies just aren't involved. They can be good mechanically, and they can be good decision makers, but if they're not involved, then when something happens, they have to react to it rather than predict it. And if you're involved, predicting becomes a lot easier, you know? It's like if you're sprinting down a flight of stairs, you can be like, okay, I'm probably going to fall. That's obvious. Somebody watching can tell. But if you're the one sprinting down the stairs, you can tell when you're going to fall because you can feel your balance start to change, or you can feel you stub your toe or whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're adjusting to your environment as it's happening rather than adjusting to your environment like after it happens, then you're better off. You know, you want to ebb and flow with the battle, not be completely reactionary.
Good hold, guys. Nice.
Holden, who quoted that? Someone in my chat just posted a quote that's like basically what I just said. The worst thing that you can do in a competitive scenario is to autopilot your actions. Basically what I said, but more eloquently. Is that like David Serlin or something? I don't know. I'll wait for him to post that. But you see how you're looking around more? This fight in general, like you don't need to be accurately flicking to everybody and just like going nuts or whatever. But the fact that like at least you're not just standing on here like, oh, I'll beam over here. I'll beam over here. Holden, that's you. You know, whatever. You just took my quote and quoted it again. Close. I was going to try and give somebody else credit, but I'm not giving you any credit. It's like, see, you're looking around, you're being engaged. That's fine. You're not dropping, which is good because you don't need to drop right now. If you drop, then you'll wish you were back up on that high ground when you need to be up on that high ground. So you're playing your scenario properly here.
I just felt like I wasn't getting any value once I don't know.
The biggest reason you don't feel like you're getting any value is because you're swapping your healing between people. Notice how pretty much everybody's full. Like, look at how
Yeah.
low that Zarya is. She's missing 2 bars. And meanwhile, you could be damage boosting your Hanzo, who has Stormbow now, which is incredible to boost. You could boost your Ryan when he fire strikes, whenever that happens. You could boost your Zarya when she's poking to get grab faster. Like, this whole time, do you damage boost once? I'm actually curious.
No. I feel like that's one of my like weakest, like my mechanical traits with. Like this is like I feel like this is just being a bot. Like
Yeah, because it is.
I
It is
got-
just being a bot. It's not you feeling like it is. It just is. So, it's like your default should basically be to damage boost people, and then you switch to healing when they need it. You shouldn't be default to healing and then switch to damage boost when they need it, because it's so much harder to tell when somebody needs damage boost, you know? It's like you don't know when they're going to use their abilities necessarily, but you do know when somebody's low, or you can tell when somebody's going to be in an engagement where they're going to be low. Also, right here, in general, this is a good upper view. You're right here, Grav is over here. Enemies are going to be coming from this general way. You'd rather be back here, so be behind the payload for this Grav rather than off on this side. Because, you know, when your team gets out of that Grav, you know they're going to back up unless they're crazy and they go in more or just stay right there. So you need to be in a spot to where when they back up, you're not having to follow them. You're already backed up.
I was assuming that we were. I wanted to die on point here because I thought we were all going to be dead.
You can still die on point right here. So like dying on point right there is the same. Yeah. I mean, your goal isn't bad, but there are better ways to execute your goal, I should say.
Yeah.
Oh, that is an interesting thing right there. This tells me another thing that I should double check. Notice how you Guardian to him. There are 2 schools of thought with Guardian. There are prefer beam target and not prefer beam target.
I cut it off after this one actually.
Okay.
I felt like I got no value out of it being preferred target on.
Yep.
Because I was using it to get up to places, but once I learned how to like Guardian Angel jump, it no longer was necessary.
Correct.
So like when I saw Hanzo jump, I knew I could get the high ground, and that's how I did it. And it, like in that situation, it just kind of screwed me.
Oh yeah, it totally screws you. And the biggest thing is it limits your options, right? If you're beamed to somebody, you don't want to have to unbeam to Guardian to somebody else. The biggest thing is if, let's say there's, oh god, we right clicked. Say there's one person here and one person here, and you're here, right? You're healing this person, they're low. And then person over here gets low too, and you're like, oh no, I need to get to them. That's cool. But you then need to let go of your healing for this dude, healing over to this dude, and then Guardian to him, which you could just keep healing this dude, like keep Guardianing, and then keep healing that dude as you go. Or switch healing mid-Guardian, or whatever. It just gives you more options. The biggest thing is that it keeps you on somebody until their HP is full, which you don't want. You want to be able to leave somebody at half HP to fix somebody who's at 0 HP, or vice versa. Like, whatever the situation demands, you don't want to be locked into it by a controller or a setting choice.
Yeah.
Hey, Hanzo, come back and peek. Come back and peek.
Come back and peek.
I was a late call. In my head, he was way closer, and
Oh god, no, he was so far away.
no, yeah, I was really disappointed. I was like, I should have died on point, and Hanzo wasn't even close by, and
If you
it's one
were
of
if
those
you were at the
things-
rear point of point, or the rear side of point, I guess you probably could have made it to him. See, there you go.
and this
Okay.
is really bad too. It's like
You-
super embarrassing.
I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm hoping this Hanzo kills you. I'm really hoping.
I get really gutsy. I make a mistake.
Do you? Oh, there it is. Yep. As there's a grav happening that you should be
Yeah.
damage boosting.
Even in my head, I knew this was bad. Like I was like,
There's 2 people there. There's 2 DPS. There's a burst. There's a tracking hit scale. Like, there's so many different ways you should die there. And, like, whether or not you even needed this Valk is a totally different question. I don't think you did quite yet, especially because conveniently there's an anti-nade flying through the air right now. You know, which basically shuts down your entire ult, except for when you should go for damage, like, right about here. But the biggest thing is where you're at during this Valk. There's
Yeah,
this
I think I
whole... We'll wait for you to fly back up real quick. right about here, right? There's this whole open courtyard, and you're right in the middle of it, straight above. This Hanzo is basically at your level for a considerable portion of it. Like, this whole strafing time, Hanzo's going to have a pretty easy shot at you, especially because, like, at least you're moving perpendicular to him rather than, like, just forward and back from him. But the biggest thing for a Mercy to do strafe-wise while they're guardianing is to strafe up and down, like, vertically, right? Like, you can move all around in whatever, like, if we draw this as a plane, right? Like, you can move around however you want within that plane, but until you start going, like, up and down from that plane, you're still going to be pretty easy to hit. Up and down movement, like, in a straight up and down, is so hard to predict, especially as a Hanzo. Like, his arrows have drop. He needs to account for his drop. If you fly up or down, you're basically giving his arrow more or less drop and making him miss. If you're strafing left and right, that's just his timing prediction, which is a lot easier to fix as a Hanzo player. If he misses twice in a row because you're strafing, he'll figure that out. But if you're strafing in, like, a weird cyclone type of thing where, like, you're going all over the place, including vertical movement, then, dude, he's probably just going to give up. Like, I tell Hanzo players, if there's a Mercy strafing up and down, she's not your main priority. Like, you can kill other people. Like, if you can hit her, go for it. But if you miss more than a few, like, stop wasting your time. Even, like, even if you stick with the Battle Mercy, like, once you see him go this far away, like, you're at the downside here. Like, his projectiles deal more damage. They're faster. I think they have a smaller hitbox rather than a bigger one, but still, like, this is not the range you want to take a Hanzo at.
Yeah.
Excuse me, especially with a Sombra below you. So, you admitted it already. I'm going to stop, like, beating it with a stick.
No, I mean, like,
but, like,
I deserve it. You know, it's like, it was bad.
It was a bad decision. Could have been better. Like, that fight, I said in the beginning that I don't think you needed that Valk, but you definitely didn't need the Valk with the Battle Mercy, because now, if you actually needed the Valk, like, you're not going to get much value out of it. This is better going for the corner, by the way. Like,
I'm on you, break. I'm on you.
a little more aggressive, but that's okay. You don't need to play super safe when there's only one person left on cart. I would say don't make it a habit of being aggressive all the time, but, like, you know, especially depending on how hard they flank you. Okay, so Guardian boosting up. Let's talk about that. Is it a skill that you should have to be a good Mercy? Yes. Is it a skill that bad Mercies don't have? Yes. Is it a skill that bad Mercies want to have? Yes. Is it a skill that decent Mercies know how to use correctly? No. What you did there is the exact last question. So, did you need to boost up? Like, straight up,
No.
yes or no? Correct. What do you gain by boosting up? Because you did gain something. I won't say that you didn't, but what did you gain by boosting?
I would say, like, I gained better sightlines, but at the trade of potentially being able to be killed by a sniper,
Yes.
which is a bad trade.
Exactly. So you can see all of this, which is good. That is your benefit. You get recon, basically. But the downside is, whoever that is, I can't tell because of bitrate. I'm guessing.
It's Hanzo.
I was going to say, I'm guessing that that's a Hanzo. And especially when you start guardianing down, he's got one or two misses before he'll land an arrow on you. If he lands the first one, okay, that's one thing. But in general, he has one or two shots before he'll hit you. And you don't want to put yourself in that scenario. Like, sure, you lived. Sure, you didn't immediately get clapped. But there will be times where you do get clapped. And again, we're all about preventing those scenarios that will make or break a game. Like, this game wasn't won or
it was
lost off that.
winnable. Yeah, it was super. Yeah.
Yeah, like, these little things will add up over time. If you died before this fight and your team lost the fight, you can be like, oh, it's because whatever. But you could pinpoint it all the way back down to you being picked right here.
No, I agree.
Oh, even there, you got widowed. So, like,
Yeah,
you didn't
I got
die,
lucky.
but you could have. If she didn't miss and got the headshot, like, it even looks like she hit you upper body or something. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, how?
I got really lucky.
You should have died. And you could have kept damage boosting or healing this Hanzo from down here. This whole time you're switching between healing damage boost when he's not actually taking damage. So stick on damage boost when you're pocketing somebody until they start taking damage. When they're against a burst hero like a Widow, you can just stick pretty confidently on damage boost because they're either going to get headshot or hit with a hefty body. so you don't really need to worry about it. Damage, again, should be your default. Okay, so again, they've got range. They can punish you for peeking, punish you for peeking, punish you for peeking. Just punish you whenever they want. Punish you for playing too aggressive, and then not really of your concern. So they got a lot of range punishing, and then some kind of like punish you if you make a positioning mistake. So, you know, keep that in mind as you play the game. I haven't seen you press tab all that often, and I suggest getting in the habit of it more. Not only because you can see, okay, how close to a Grav Dragon combo, or like, am I going to be damage boosting a Shatter soon, or whatever, but also you can see who's alive, who's dead, who's alive or dead on the enemy team, etc. Hero swaps that they make, stuff like that. If you pop that up more, you're good to go. Like, you don't always need to pop it up to check your healing or death or whatever stat you end up checking.
Swing.
Swing. See, there you go.
I feel like that helps a lot.
Can you bubble me, Zarya?
I was worried that the Widow was going to shoot me. Like, I just assumed that once she got that...
It's a decent assumption. However, there was a Hanzo that picked your Hanzo. But the biggest thing is, when you peek this, right here, when you're going for the res, you're now exposing yourself to where you could be killed.
Don't let me...
Check the range on this res.
That's getting rezzed. Can you bubble?
You can res from here, which is under the bridge, which is a lot safer.
Zarya?
You go out further, which you don't need to do. The other thing, if you want to be really extra crazy safe, is just spin around. I'm pretty sure you've seen Mercy's do it. Do it. It makes them so hard to like headshot at least. You're already at an advantage while you're rezzing because her hitbox is stupid as is. But if you're spinning around, it makes it even more complicated. So go for it. Does your mouse have a DPI shift button on it?
Yes, but I have it turned off.
Okay. If you want to try with it, you can crank that bad boy to switch between your normal and maximum, so that when you're rezzing, you can just click it and then spin really fast. It's not necessary. It might ruin your muscle memory, but it seems like you're not moving around with your mouse actively anyway, so muscle memory isn't a big concern. Right here, you see how you're playing safe? That's good. Right here on this other side, you're getting ready for the res.
Just bad.
You're getting ready for the res, but you don't have it quite yet, so you're committing to an ability that you might not get to use, and you're putting yourself at risk. Conveniently, Sombra was on that side. Doesn't matter. If you wanted to go for that res, go for it when you actually have the ability to res, or when you're about to have it. You commit to this when you've still got like 4 or 5 seconds left on res, and
Yeah.
like your team is here. There's a wall in the way, and you're now here, so you can't even peek around to get them anyway. Now I've got a plank wearing headphones, but you'd rather be over here so that you can heal them through that sideline, and then guarding over here when there's actually time to res.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And again, if you're doing this in game, the way you want to think about it is: do I need to go over there to res? Do I even have res? Like, is it even worth it to go for that res? Like, so many questions. Like, at that point, would it have been worth it to res him? No.
I don't think so.
The fight was lost, you would have just fed. So I'm kind of glad you didn't get it off, just because, like, it would have been a rough
It just
feed.
delays the stagger.
It delays the stagger, it feeds the moral charge, and McCree's not going to get anything. He's going to feel bad. He might have been eating cake, and you res him, and he's got to put it down. Like, you know.
Sombra's on our
That's another thing, too. It's kind of a weird thing, but if I die, I might, like, actually let go of my keyboard and mouse and start eating something or drinking something. And if I get res, that, like, scrambles me. So if you want to, you said you're a communicative player. That's awesome. If you want to get in the habit of saying, I'm resing you, insert person here, before you do it.
usually do.
Okay, good. Because that'll like, let them know. Because, like, sometimes I'm not paying attention. I hear the res. I don't know if that's me getting resed or whoever in the kill cam is getting resed. Whatever. Just tell, like...
Sometimes people want to switch characters too, and
Yeah.
I've run into it where they don't say it, or like it actually happens in game, like this game where the Ron says I'm gonna switch, and it was a better switch, and I ended up rezzing him because I just didn't hear him say that. But watching it again, I'm like, oh, he said that, you know.
2020 hindsight. Like, what's with his mouth? What? Yeah, so one of my friends in in the Twitch chat was like, with his mouth full of chips getting rezzed, like, fuck. Pretty much, because, like, I'll be doing something and I'll get rezzed, whether it's, like, actually eating food or, like, you know, checking something else on a game or wanting to switch heroes. Just letting me know that I'm being rezzed is always a good thing. like if I'm planning on switching heroes and I don't tell you, that's my fault. But
Somber's on our
it's also my fault for, I guess, like eating food while I'm playing. But you know, I know for a fact that I'm not the only one. Good choice going for the damage boost during the anti. By the way, a lot of players will just stick to healing, so they're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, you got the bubble. I wouldn't plan on that bubble. The bubble doesn't last as long as your res and guardian combo. It's not
that
all.
res not only was bad because of the positioning, it was also bad because he was swapping anyway. So I just wasted a 30-second cooldown for nothing.
shit. Somber's on our healer.
So
Let's
like,
see. So this, I'm trying to see if there's a point where you could have figured out that your Sombra was on your Zen. Last time you checked, no. Now you can. Again, if you were looking back and forth between these two parts of your team more frequently, you could figure out that somebody was like, because we'll watch it again, right? You check, he's fine. Everybody's fine. That's good. And then you go back over here. Not much to look at. Keep your damage boost on him. You should have checked back again, real quick. And that's when you sort of half check. Like for me, I'm looking, maybe it's the difference between a DPS and a support player, but I'm looking generally in this area, sometimes on this like outer rim, but I change my viewpoint a ton. Like, is that tunnel visioning? Maybe, but I'm always looking around so that I'm pointing my tunnel at whatever I want to look at. Like right here, I'll try and pause it. Right here, I'd be looking like right here and maybe over here because that's where I was looking. It's a lot easier for me to unconsciously like move my mouse somewhere, but it's a lot harder for me to like move my mouse sort of halfway there and then have to look halfway there. It's like I'm just going to move my crosshair all the way over to where I want to actually look. And notice in your reaction time between your like half movement and your call out.
Shit. Somber's on.
So that time, in my opinion, could be reduced if you were more active in your scenario. Also, I'm going to point out that not once did you check your high ground. Like, Sombra was on your Zen, but she can pretty easily just, like, she doesn't need to burn invis to stand up top or, like, drop down or whatever, but you also haven't brought up Tab very frequently, so they could have swapped back to Genji like they're running earlier. This point's a pretty good Genji point. And you should always, like Hanzo too, like, always be watching that. And you don't check it very frequently. Like, even when you're pressing tab, you just, like, stand still to press it. Don't ever stand still, like, ever. Unless you're going for a res and you have to. Like...
Shit. Somber's on our healer. 10 seconds on res here, res.
Yeah, don't even worry about that res. Like, he's picked so early in the fight that it's honestly better for him to just respawn and then come back rather than you to burn your res this early. Because then you can res somebody who's actually, like, in the fight. Good job using the pole for the cover against the Widow.
There's four there.
Ooh, that was low to the ground. That was a sketchy.
oh, I get punished.
Oh, you go for the res too? Oh god, no! I was hoping that you weren't flying that low for a res. Okay, even if there wasn't a shatter that you probably should have been hit by, because it's Rhine. Even if there wasn't a nano boosted Rhine. Whatever. You're still low to the ground. There's a decently charged Zarya and a Widow. This res, there's 100 different ways to punish you for it. And that should be your sign, no. Especially because you're Valking right now. You're spending a lot of crucial Valk time for that res. And you'd rather just use it for Valk, you know? The biggest thing for res is to use it to save teammates who died in good positions for you. You don't ever want to put yourself in a bad position to res them. And, like, sometimes that means that you don't get to res in a fight. That's more okay than resing somebody and feeding yourself, or resing them and then feeding them and then yourself. Like, you gotta remember that, like, even if you did res him, is he in a spot where he actually wants to be? I've been resed into the middle of the enemy team so many times, and it's like, no, just let me stay dead. I'm in a bad spot because either I died in a bad spot, or I died in a good spot and the enemy's moved forward to then make it a bad spot. Whatever. The point is that res people who are currently and will be in good spots.
Yeah.
What actually ended up killing it? So the Rhine ended up killing it. Okay. I was like, there's so many different things that I don't know what it actually ended up being. Let me check your team comp again. Didn't change much other than... Okay. is like right here, your default is healing. That's fine. That's what a lot of mercies are. I suggest defaulting the damage boost because
Yeah.
if this monkey dives in, then he gets the damage boost, so he gets his ult faster, and then you can, if you're on toggle beam, then you can switch to healing as soon as he dives in, so that you're healing him at the right time. Was that a solo grav on your Zarya? Oof. Okay, this is a DPS concept I'm about to bring up, but it applies here too, especially in this scenario. But how many of, actually, I'm going to preface it by saying, how many of my other VODs did you watch?
I'm not
Just
sure.
a few?
I mean, I watched. So this is the first VOD that, like, I just recently started watching my own gameplay.
Mhm.
So you did one on Doomfist, and I tried to take notes on like a lot of things you said, like about the tree and like how it branches. What could you be doing? So it's interesting, like, because like I went, like, a lot of my stuff is like basically branches out like when we engaged or what was bad and what I should have been or where I should have been. So it's interesting, like sometimes I'm not getting punished and you're like, this is bad, which is actually kind of nice because it, like, I didn't see some of those. So I think I watched like a 76 VOD.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe 3, but the Doomfist was like the big one.
Okay, that's good.
I feel
Those
like-
Doomfist VODs were pretty good, because Doomfist is a lot of decision making, and he super applies in this case. But what I was going to bring up is this concept of, like, occupation, I guess, for lack of a better word. If this is enemy team, this is your team, you cannot do anything in this middle zone, or, like, even sometimes on these side zones, especially as Mercy, until both teams are occupying each other. So right here, you'll notice that there is nobody friendly here. There's only one, and they're just a memory at this point. So watch what happens, right? You're going to meet your Winston on the other side. Whatever that plan ended up being, whether it was a plan or not, doesn't matter. You're on the opposite. You're on the
notice he
opposite
was there.
side.
I thought I was the only one who could stall. That's so it's just a bad awareness.
Yeah, but the point being is that the enemy team, you see how they instantly turn on you. Doesn't matter if you were Tracer, Widow stalling, Hanzo, they instantly turned on you. And the point is that you went in to contest while the enemy team had nothing else to worry about, so they can all take all of their effort and focus it straight onto you. And whether or not you had this Winston, you should know. If you didn't have the Winston in this case, it's fine to go in and contest because you need to. But I still would have taken the more direct route to try and Guardian to a corpse, rather than try and bring it up behind, because the payload's moving one way and you're trying to catch up to it another. But in this case, situational awareness is 1, to check for Winston. We'll just do 1 for Winston, check there. And then 2, if you don't have Winston, this is weirdly amount of drawing, don't have Winston, then you go into payload in a straight line. If it's 2 and you do have Winston, then you need to wait for Winston to go into the fight, and then you can guard into him, because he's got more HP. He'll occupy them, while you can then, like, sneakily Guardian behind, or whatever. Because a frail Mercy will die really quickly. Like, whether you got slept there or not, there was a bunch of different things to kill you. And now, if we look at the fight, there's still time to stall. Like, you've got people coming there. I mean, it would have been different if you were alone, but in this case you weren't.
It was
so.
it was just a bad. This was like, I really felt like we may have lost this game like solely because of me, because I really felt like there was a lot of really bad decisions. Like, I should have noticed that the Winston was up, and I should have known, like, I knew that I was gonna die. I was just hoping for overtime.
Yep.
Which was it was just a bad call. Like, we lost overtime because I chose to throw myself like a potato sack at the cart, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if you see, but I circled the time of 14 seconds. Like, I know when you say overtime, I know that you don't, in this case, mean overtime, but, like, all you need to do is, you don't want to throw yourself on the cart as Mercy. Like, it's honestly, I'd be okay if my Mercy didn't touch cart and we lost the round, because it's my job as a DPS or as a tank player to touch cart. If you touch cart and prolong the fight, then you can shave down some time, but the difference between 14 seconds and 0 seconds honestly isn't that much. And in this case, since you did have Winston there, you could have prolonged the fight a lot more by going in with him rather than just going in on your own. So you tunnel visioned on, make sure this doesn't get to 0, make sure this does get to 0, and then you didn't focus on anything else like that's going on at all. You're just on these things. And if you can work your way out of that little like tunnel zone and work on paying attention to your environment, then you'll make these decisions. Whether you make them faster or more correctly is not the point. You'll be more informed so that when you do make a decision, you can back it up more, even if it's a bad one, like you did on the res, like with the dragon and blade coming in. That was a bad decision, but you could at least back it up. In this case, you can sort of back it up, but you want to be able to back it up with situational evidence, not just I wanted to do this, you know? Like you want to do that, but could you have gotten away with it, or was there anything better you could have actually done? Let's see, what's your team comp?
Yeah, that makes.
Oh, you got like a divey comp going on here. Interesting. Just realized this is the first round. I know, right? I've talked to what? How long have I? Oh my god, it's been an hour on the first round. Christ. Okay.
If you need me to like ask less questions, I will, because I don't. I feel like I'm eating up.
No. There's not another student today. I have nothing to do other than just be sick, so it's fine. Like if I start losing my voice, then we'll have to like call it. But my throat has been getting better, and it's just my everything else that's dying. So it is not the biggest concern right now. So you got Winston was okay. Did you say full gas at the task at hand?
I think that was our Winston.
Yeah. What does he mean by that? Okay.
And this is full bot, so this is.
I'm gonna try and get this in the mic. There we go. We're gonna crack the knuckle. Don't stand on the payload like ever, as any hero ever. It'll get you killed. It's so easy to bot out if you're on the payload. Like not only do you have no cover, you're using your cover as like a pedestal. Like if this payload rounds this corner and you don't immediately die, it'll either be because this diva DM'd you or because the enemy team's botting out just as hard. But you need to be, again, aware at all times about as many different things as you possibly can. Standing on payload should never even cross your mind unless you're trying to get over it. Oh.
Yeah, I just get away with it. But, I mean, it was really bad.
Oh, you're not even looking towards like when you're having to turn back to your team as a mercy. A huge mistake. You shouldn't ever have to do that unless it's turning. Like your field of view should look like this, and your team should maybe be like over here and you can't see them. It should never be you have to turn around to look at them. That should be your number one sign. Like if you're having to guardian back to your team to save yourself from a positional error you made, ooh.
I wrote down in my notes because this is the first video that I went back and like used your techniques, and I think at 11:38 is when I put like you're just a bot. Like, that's, like you did effectively nothing.
Yeah, let's see. When is 38? 38 is when you just like you just get shot, oof, and then walk back.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like in the moment, like I remember thinking like nothing's going on, no biggie, and then watching this, I'm like, oh my god.
Nothing's going on.
I'm a terrible human.
Nothing's going on until you get headshot, and then everything goes on after that. Like, again, it comes down to the point of you got to know what is your team going to be doing? What's the enemy team going to be doing? If you're playing like a Widow, and you're just sitting there on high ground, waiting for the payload to roll around the corner, and I see a Mercy standing there, and I have this long of a time, like, now. That's like 3 shots worth if I'm bad. Yeah. Oh. Again, if you have to, you want to give the enemy respect, but you also, like, that was, I know you bought it out, but to them it looks like a total disrespect. It's like, I'm just standing on the payload. It doesn't matter, dude. But it does matter. And if you died there, then this push would have been severely hindered. Sure, it's close to your spawn. Sure, it's not super important, but, like, if Widow shot you from this window right here, I don't know if you paid attention to that, but you need to know where your biggest threats are. So, like...
Yeah, there was a Hanzo there, too. It's like, I got really lucky.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like, the reason you lived is because as you were rounding this corner, Widow was repositioning from this corner over to this window. Why she was doing that, I don't know, but that is the only reason you lived. Now that you're playing it a little safer, you're in a much better spot because like you don't need to push up right now. The only time you need to push up is when somebody's going to be on you around this way or they're getting out of guardian range. If you ever get to the point where you can't guardian to anybody, you've also seriously messed up. Wait, where was your Doomfist rolling out from?
No clue. He does some like crazy stuff. He's pretty much by himself the whole game.
Okay, so right here, I was watching your Doomfist specifically because I wanted to see how low he'd get when he's coming through. Thankfully, he gets topped off, but you should be paying attention to your front line as much as you can, like right now with this D.Va. That's good. But also, as this Doomfist is doing his thing, like, you need to see that he's there and then get ready to meet him at this gate because he's basically got the hitbox the size of the moon. And when he's in a tight choke like that and he's used his mobility, he used his punch and his E and his other cooldown punch now to get through there, so he has no more horizontal mobility. He could die very quickly. Thankfully, he doesn't, but you should be there to meet him and start healing him as a precautionary measure. When you're looking up at this Winston, he's not taking any damage. If he does go in, you can't reach him now. So the person you're working with isn't a very high priority right now, and the person who, i.e. the Doomfist, he could be a very high priority, so adjust your priorities according to those priorities. There's a lot of priorities going on there. Ooh, okay. I don't think I even need to talk about that one real quick. That was one of those.
I mean, I did it and then canceled because even in the moment, I was
you
like,
caught
what
it.
am I doing?
Yeah. If you guard, like, I know you wanted to top off your Winston. That's a noble cause. But in your like fervor to cancel, you end up like not healing him anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you should be playing this corner like super tight to it because that puts you at risk to splash. But you can play closer to the payload, which gives you a closer sideline to your Winston. And when you do jump for him, like right here, like you should, again, if you're not on hold, if you're on toggle, you can guardian and click at the same time and it'll latch onto him so that you're healing him while you're guardianing closer to him. And then that would potentially save his life. I mean, he was Discord and there's a lot heading for him. Who knows? Also, gotta take a breath inside myself. Doomfist, we'll talk about him real quick. Remember I had to top him off? At this point, he is over half HP. He's pretty much safe. He's left. He's doing his combos. That's fine. Once he's over half and there's something else that you need to be worry about that something else. If there's nothing else to worry about, top Doomfist off all the way. But keep him above half and then work on whatever pertinent thing happens to be in front of you. In that case, she's getting demeched, but you could have prevented her from getting demeched.
So I have a question about that, actually.
Go for it.
So usually with tanks, I like to try to, if there's a lot of damage, I'll try to get tanks to about half and then top the DPS up and then swap back to the tanks.
Yeah.
So, are there any other healer, like DPS or anything like that where, Doom, I don't need to completely top him off? I mean, I know, things like Bastion can self-heal and, 76 can self-heal. Are there any, is it just people who can, provide shields and self-heal, or that I don't need a baby, or
it depends very much on a multitude of factors. So for Doomfist, the reason you don't need to top him off all the way, like you said, is because he can shield himself, but also because he has mobility, right? For other DPS, it relies less on what their kit is and more of what the enemy's kit is. If you have a Tracer, for example, she can recall, obviously, but if they have a Pharah and you top her to 119 HP, she is still effectively at 1 because a direct shot will kill her. If you top her up to 121, that extra quarter of a millisecond that you spent healing her will save her life. It's those thresholds that become important. Doomfist, his rough threshold for just himself is like half. Soldier, it's a little over half. Tracer, it's like 2/3. It depends on less of the hero and more about what they're up against, you know?
Okay,
so
I'm going to have to look into that more. Because, I think that's important.
Yeah, so stuff like Pharah's, the biggest ones are probably like Junkrat, Pharah, Hanzo, Widow, and Reinhardt. Like, if you've got a Tracer, you need to make sure she's over half if she's engaged with a Reinhardt, and you can. She should be managing her blinks and cooldowns otherwise, but 75 HP, she'll get one shot by a Rein. 76, she's now 2-shot. Or like a Fire Strike, keep her above 100 if you can. If they've got like a Hanzo Widow duo, try and keep her above 125. Boom, you're good. you don't need to top her all the way off to full because she can grab a mini, she can do whatever. Like, health packs do exist, you just don't want to be another. You want to be better than a health pack, basically. It's the same thing with pocketing, too. If you're pocketing somebody, you don't always need to be on, like, healing them. Even if they're, like, 50 HP down, you don't need to worry about topping that off until it's safe. If they're in engagement, just damage boost them for that engagement and then top them off when they're either lower or they're dead or whatever. Or not dead, like, whatever. I was saying dead because I was looking at the dead Doom Fist. So let's talk about this again, right? Relatively full HP Winston. He's disengaging right now, and you are engaging as you're flying in. You didn't cancel your Guardian. You should have.
Yeah, I thought that the bubble was going to land on the staircase, and then it wasn't, so my head was exposed the whole time.
Even
like,
if the bubble did. I'm going to interrupt you there and be
bad?
rude. Yeah, it's still bad, because think about what you gain. At this point, you can still see him, and if you're on the ground, you could still see him. By being up on this pedestal, whether bubble was here or not, you're in a more aggressive position by default, and that position is only made less aggressive by the conditional of his bubble. If you remove that conditional and say that there is no bubble here, you are now standing on a pedestal in front of a Hanzo and a Zarya, or somebody who's being Zarya'd, with a Discord/Harmony Orb soon to come as the Zenyatta rounds this corner. So this position is way too aggressive for you. You can accomplish the same thing by staying down low. You can use Guardian to get to him. Like, at this point, if you're planning on going to this Winston, you can Guardian to him, but then cancel it, like, around here, so that you're just peeking up. If he decides to move in, that's cool. You can just go around and then heal him that way. You don't want to have to commit fully like he does. You get that advantage. Like, you can still heal him. If you put it like this, right? There's this sightline thing, right? Enemies are over here. The person you're healing is up here. Enemies are shooting at them. If you stay down here, you can still heal, but you can't be shot by the enemies. Like, that's not something they can do. But if you stand up here, then there's the chance of them to shoot you. So avoid that if you can. Again, your goal is to stay alive. If you put yourself in a spot where you're less likely to stay alive, then that's a negative, obviously. That shatter maybe could have been avoided if you played a little safer, but, you know, you'd still be in a similar spot. See, there's the bubble that saves you. That was a good bubble.
That
on
was
his
really
part.
good. Yeah, he saved me.
The good escape bubble, the 12 HP Mercy. And yeah, Catalyst, it's your Mercy VOD. You happy? I'll have another Diva one coming too, I think. I don't know when.
Somber's in the back. Pushing on now. Alright, guys. We got chain heals. Be aggressive here.
I'm not gonna comment on this in a coachy way, but it's just like,
Chain heals. Be aggressive here.
I like how you say we have chain heals, be aggressive, and that full sentence you're on damage boost. I know that you mean they can have chain heals, but
No, I think I do that on purpose because people, if they hear that, they tend to be aggressive, and that's what I want.
Yep.
And so I'm purposefully not healing right now so that we get that 30%, and then once it looks like people are low, then I start switching.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I didn't. That's why I prefaced it by saying not in a coaching way, because this isn't. I don't think this is bad. Someone's being damaged conveniently in this frame, but I think you getting them to be more aggressive with chain damage is good. I just think it's funny that you say we have chain healing while you're not chain healing.
Yeah.
Now you go back to it.
This, I kind of once the Transcendence came out, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know if it was even worth.
Sorry.
I just figured out sustain.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the chain heals was would potentially. I didn't know if like the teeter point. Like I didn't know if anybody could actually still kill anybody with trance up. We still get a few people.
You said it so well. I'm so glad you said that exact sentence when you did, because I was going back in time to try and listen for. Where is it? Waiting. There he goes. Okay. Damage boost him. Whenever you hear a blade, you should try and damage boost it, because he can chew through a trance with it, and he can one shot slash dash somebody with damage boost. It is huge. You should try and keep him alive through it, but most importantly, you should damage boost. Damage boost in my opinion should be your default, but especially when you're pocketing somebody like that, because he can, instead of having to go slash dash, or like slash and then a dash relying on like other forms of damage to come in there, with damage boost, he can just straight up slash, straight up dash, give it no second thought if it's a squishy, because they will die immediately. And he can get so much value out of a blade if you damage boost it. I don't know if you were thinking that at all, but
No, I don't know enough about Genji other than just stay away from him.
yeah,
I never play him, and I have a hard time with Genjis. Like, good Genjis are a fucking nightmare. Sorry, I mean, I'm not. Hopefully, I'm not. I've got foul language, so hopefully it's
dude,
not an issue.
no, I have way fouler language than you. It's totally fine. But I just thought it was funny they said good Genjis are a nightmare, because it's true. But if you're damage boosting a Genji while he's blading, he's even more of a nightmare for the other team. Like,
Yeah,
part of, like I said earlier, I'll tie back to it, playing Mercy is that you got to know at least roughly how other heroes play. So whether you play Genji or not is totally fine, but if you understand what you can do to both enable him or enable yourself via him, then you'll be so much better off. Like, I think I said it in literally the last VOD I did, but I think it was actually Genji VOD, and he said sometimes he feels worthless, and I was saying that his job as a DPS is to either enable his team or be enabled by his team. And your job as Mercy is to enable your team as best you can, whether that means keeping them alive or damage boosting them. And knowing which heroes to keep alive or which ones to damage boost and when to do each is important. It's like damage boosting a Widow is, unless they're in a certain circumstance, not very viable, because if she lands a headshot on a squishy, they're dead no matter what. If she lands a body shot, your damage boost won't tip it over to the one-shot body shot. Where it matters, though, is with a Hanzo, like, versus a Roadhog, or like with a Widow versus a Zarya, because a Widow can one-shot a Zarya if she has a damage boost and it's a headshot. That's big. But what isn't as big is just like a Hanzo body-shotting Roadhog a few times. So knowing the teeter points, as you say, for each hero is pretty big. So if you want to, I suggest going onto the wiki or going into the training range or whatever and just seeing, as pretty much every other hero, what abilities you would like, if you were playing those heroes, to be damage boosted, so that you know, okay, our Genji's blading, that is my time to go damage boost him to get a free team wipe. Or our Pharah is going in for a barrage, I'll damage boost that. Like, that's an obvious one, but it still exemplifies the teeter point, per se.
Sorry in the back.
See, like right here, this is an example of basically this platform and then down on the ground. Notice how when you Guardian in, we'll pause it right here. Notice how you don't go all the way up to this corner. You don't need to. You're fine. You're safe back here. Enemies can shoot this way. You can heal this way. There's this convenient wall in the way, and your team is right here. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. You don't want to be right here. This is one of those times where you're kind of,
This part right here, like, is where, like, I feel like shot calling would have made a huge difference, because our team really just spread out and did their own thing, and I got like no value. And I think the solution to this would have been just saying, like, hey guys, we need to group up and have a game plan or a win condition, because I think everybody was like, I think maybe they had individual ideas of what they wanted to do.
Well, of course they're going to have individual ideas. They should. But in this case, you've got relatively solo, unless he's going with your dive. Relatively solo, unless he's going with your dive. So, therefore, your goal should be to stay with your dive, because that means that your people who are more independent, i.e. Doomfist and Genji, can then come back to your dive team for heals if they need it, and you can rely on them to advance forward to catch up with your independence over time. So if you're trying to, but if your Winston and Diva hadn't dived in and you're like, oh, I need to go heal our Genji, that can get you killed, because that Genji's probably in a spot where Mercy shouldn't be. So when your team's really spread out, that's okay sometimes. Just make sure that you're not putting yourself in a bad position to counteract it. Like you said.
No, I agree. The tanks are getting ready to do something kind of weird, and I don't know if I could have done anything.
Yeah, like Doomfist chilling down here, waiting for something. I don't know what he's waiting for, but he's waiting for something. Your tank's waiting for something. And you're chilling in a good spot. You're not super exposed. That's cool. That's what you want to do. You don't want to be like chilling where your Winston is. Okay, so he gets, what are they?
he hit the widow, and then I was like, well, there's no point in backing him up because
Okay.
I literally, I at this point I was like, I don't know, I didn't have a clue what to do.
When
Like,
you
other
don't have a
than-
clue what to do, that's cool. What you don't want to do is, at this point, nobody knows you're here. Exemplified in Exhibit A of nobody looking at you. Everybody's looking in exactly not where you're at. What you can do to very quickly make them look at you is pull out your pistol and shoot at them. So if you're up here and they're not on you, that's okay. You have time to make a decision. You don't need to pull out a pistol. Like, maybe that's the decision you went for, but you have time to make a deliberate decision on what you think is best. Whether you want to try and meet your Winston somewhere else instead of chasing straight after him. Maybe you want to, like, try and guardian to him through there for whatever reason. Like, you have the time to make this decision, and you should take it rather than going, hey, I'm going to battle Mercy. Like, even if you did hit the Ana, like, you wouldn't have gotten any value out of it. See, now that your team's in, like, that's cool.
Run, run, run.
Oh, there we go. There's the Guardian that I was
Yeah.
waiting to punish you. Again, your team's here. You're kind of in this middle zone. Enemy team's here, but also all around here. So you don't want to have to go through them to get to your team. If you stayed right up here, you'd be able to do the exact same things. You'd even be able to heal your baby diva if you needed to.
Yeah, I agree. I
Like-
shouldn't have left.
Run, run, run.
Oh, yeah. You were in a good position. You shot. You went to a worse position, and you guardianed to what would have been a better position, but the fact that you had to guardian to it made it a worse one. Okay, let's get your weird XQC thinking emotes out of here. Alright?
Do what?
Catalyst is just like spamming the weird like XQC thinking emoji in chat. It just looks it looks like 3 like butts just in a row. And like every time I look over to it, it's like, why? I don't even remember the context for it, so I can't comment on it. I try and read Twitch chat during the VODs, but like I know it also unsettles the student when I do it. Oh, okay.
I think at this point I was just frustrated and I started like falling apart. Like a lot of these things, like looking at them, I'm like, oh, why? I mean, I don't know.
Again,
Like I don't think the res was safe there, and I don't know.
yeah, not only was the res not safe, but think again to the end result of would Doomfist would Doomfist be in a good spot if you res him right here right now? And the answer, in my opinion, would be no. If I was rezzed into that, I'd be so upset because Doomfist cooldowns work well when he's going in on somebody, not when he's already in, unless he's planned being already in. So, like, he would have just ended up feeding super hard, especially with the EMP coming. You didn't know that necessarily, but if he gets EMP'd in that too, that would have been a mega feed. Honestly, it's best that you died before you got that res off, but it should have been to the point where you shouldn't have been going for that res, so it wouldn't be good if you died. You know?
Yeah.
The fact that you're dying during a res shouldn't be a good thing.
No, yeah, I agree.
Okay. I'm glad your diva calls it out in case you weren't paying attention, but they now have Widow Vision. So your sightlines must be as cautious as they just were to then be even more cautious because they can peek more aggressively and then know, especially the Sombra. Like, this Sombra's going to have free reign.
I mean, all we need to do is dive, I think, the Ana, and we should be able to just rush them, right?
I like how you're questioning it in game. Yes, in this case, if you do rush their Ana, you'll be able to just steamroll because she's solo healing, and ideally your Doomfist should be doing that. I don't know if he is or not, but that's his job. He probably knows it. The fact that you're telling your tanks is good, I guess.
Diva, can you poke back out? We should be able to just
Okay,
rush
we'll
them.
talk about this real quick. I stopped talking because I was concentrating. If you're needing to peek somebody, tell them like ASAP, like interrupt yourself and be like, Diva, peek me. Because notice how she then commits to being in this building more, and like you're then asking her to come back out. Like the reason she went in that building is probably because she doesn't want to peek that corner.
Oh, I wanted her to come down. I didn't want to go up because
Why?
they still have walls right now.
Yeah, they still have walls, so you might as well be up with her. Like, you don't want to be down on the ground when they're all looking down on you. You'd rather be up on the high ground so that when the walls wear off, you can then drop back down if you want, and they won't know. They'll still assume you're on high ground or whatever. Knowing they have walls isn't as important to reveal your position, because like if they're smart, they can predict where you're going to be anyway. For you as a Mercy, the biggest thing with walls is just making sure you don't get killed as a result of them. If you're playing like Doomfist or like Widow or whatever, the positional aspect is more important. But for you, it's just make sure you don't die. And this D.Va probably knows that. Like, she's strafing back and forth. She knows that the enemy knows that she's there. And she's probably not peeking because there's a Widow or a Hanzo watching her. And so that should either signal to you don't want to be up there through this method, or you should understand and have her peek you earlier, you know? Like, if she's not peeking, there's a reason. You don't want to fly into whatever she's not peeking. Yeah, see, she even calls... I'm glad I paused it right there, because the D.Va just proved me right by saying, no, they're both waiting, and then the Widow shot comes out immediately. So, not guarding to her at that point is, in this case, beneficial, because we have hindsight to say, yeah, you probably would have died. But in general, if you do plan on going up with somebody, make sure that you enable that by saying, peek me as early as possible. In this case, it worked out well that you didn't get peeked, but that doesn't mean that...
Yeah, I wouldn't have Guardian Angel. I always assume that Widow is going to hold that, like, highway, the top layer, that top ledge.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, like, I was confused as to why the D.Va went up there, or... I don't know. It just felt like I was like, man, I'm getting no value right now. Like, I just struggled because I was like, where can I go to add value? And in my head, I'm thinking, well, maybe the D.Va will drop down and I can heal her. And it just felt like we needed a regroup. But it might have been because, like, I think maybe the Mercy here wasn't even a good pick for the team comp too. I feel like there are other... maybe better healers. Like, I always think like Zen with dive tanks is better.
Zen with dive tanks works. What I'm going to say is, since we're talking about Mercy, I'll cut you off a bit and point out the spot that I underlined / highlighted or whatever. You can stand there and peek your D.Va to heal her without exposing yourself. So you can Guardian to like right here and then immediately pop out over onto this ledge, and you expose yourself for like the 0.5 seconds or whatever to get to here. Not even half a second. And then you just yoink over to here, and you're relatively safe. They know you're there, but they knew you were there anyway because you guardianed. So you don't... Then you can still make the decision of, do I stay high ground or do I drop back down?
Yeah.
You go for the guardian anyway, which is one of those moments where I would say just don't, because your team's all down there. Let me see. Yeah, she got demec'd pretty much instantly. The D.Va, no way, I'm so bad. Feels bad, man. Again, this is one of those guardians where, please die. Please, oh. I'm not going to beat this one to death because it should be painfully obvious to you too. But just like, all of that, all of this, over this, no. I can elaborate more if you want me to, but I figure I've talked enough about Guardians and peeking to where you should just know that that was a very risky peek for very little reward. Does this one go into like other rounds, or is it just this one?
It goes into overtime, but the overtime is terrible.
The overtime is the end, though? It doesn't go into like more rounds?
No, it goes into more. But basically what happens at the end is we get it here. I feel like I played this endpoint pretty well. I feel like I was really in it to win it, I guess.
Okay.
But our
I'm gonna, since you took a little brain pause, I'll fill in the time with a little something here. Watch this. I'll see if you can figure out what I'm gonna point out.
Good job, guys. Punish this run. Punish this run.
Did you catch it during all that?
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'm keeping it super open. If you said anything, I'd be impressed. Don't worry, I wouldn't respond.
I think we're up. I mean, our Widow got somebody, and then it felt like we were up. So, I don't know if that's where we're going with this.
It sort of is. You're good. Widow did.
Like the waste on the Valk because we've already won. Is that the problem?
I haven't.
Or...
I mean, that is a problem. But the biggest thing I'm talking about is your positioning here. Your Widow, the person she picks is important, and she picks the enemy Widow, which is good. That means you can play a little more aggressively. However, up until this point, your Hanzo on the enemy team has not been picked. So I'll let you watch it again and see. Well, you'll see. We'll wait for it. There's like one Widow shot. Boom. And then pick. So that's the trade. That's now done. This is important. But there's still another long range hero that can clap you. And keep that in mind when you watch where you're standing for this.
Yeah. I mean, if he was on high ground, I was pretty much just there for the pick.
Yeah, that makes it even more obvious for you. Now that I've pointed out, it's like you're on the wrong side of the payload here. Like, sure, you're avoiding who's on this side, but there's other people way over here that can still destroy you from way far away. I don't know what on earth that shatter was, but I kind of hoped you'd get shattered there too.
Run. Stay on the run.
The Valk, yeah, you definitely didn't need that Valk, but I think that's just a single decision that's pretty easy to determine in hindsight. The part that I wanted to address was the positioning there, because that's a little bit harder to figure out since you didn't get punished there if you're doing it on your own. Because when you're doing your own VOD review, it's just like, hey, how did I get punished? Fix that. But if I can point out where you get punished or where you should have been punished, then it'll help you a little bit better and a little bit faster. Again,
I got lucky here. The D.Va eats the Hanzo ult.
Yeah, so not only am I going to question gardening into the Grav, I'm also going to point out again this conditional. Like, being over here is not a good position, where this bubble is in particular. You can be over here, I guess, just because your team's there, but your team being there is also a conditional. But when you go in here, notice how you're lingering here, and as soon as the bubble's gone, you're like, uh-oh, dude, your team's over here. They're busy looking that way. Hanzo's over here. He's definitely busy looking at you. You're in a scary spot. You'd rather just be like chilling back here or around this corner or like anywhere that isn't here. However, that is not improved by gardening into the Grav. I'm guessing you wanted to go for your Widow or something? Like, was that your plan? It looks like you kind of guardian upwards to her.
No, I just figured that I was dead there anyway, so die with the team. And I figured just hold on and then just hope that things turn out, because I really didn't think that I was gonna get away. I in my head I was like, oh, I'm dead. So I mean, like, I don't know what to say. Like,
you could have gotten away. I don't know if you end up getting away. I'm guessing. Is you're like, I'm dead, but you're not. Like, you're not dead quite yet. You should have been dead at that point. When you're over here, you're not totally dead. Even like when the bubble goes away, you're not totally dead. But when you guardian into the Grav, you should be dead. The concept of, quote, die with the team is sort of important, but not really. You shouldn't be. It's die with the team so that your team is dying with you. More importantly, it's like basically have a good team fight, but it doesn't mean you're alive, go die because some of the team died. Like, you were still up in that fight. Like, if we go back to here, like, you've lost 2 people, that's fine, but then you pick their Winston and then you pick somebody else. Who do you get? You get the Widow. So, and then your Winston dies, but like, whatever. You've got a few, so the fight's not totally lost at this point, especially because you've invested a lot into it. But by jumping into that Grav, you then make it from a, you could win to a, especially if you died in it.
Alright, maybe we should just get a regroup here, guys.
I like how you called me, we should get a regroup, like, after you're dead, not, like, beforehand. It's always, like...
No,
it's like, after you're dead, that's when you check.
The whole time that we were in that fight, I thought at the Grav we should have regrouped. And one of the things, like in a normal game, I would have called that, but I don't know. I'm trying not to, like, in this game, in my head, I'm trying not to be a shot caller, if that makes any sense. Because I feel like things change. You got to be careful, too. Like, when I queue up, like, I usually queue up with, like, the 6 stack. because that way you can have a group that's going to work together. And I didn't notice, but some of the people had actually already left voice.
Yeah.
I had checked at the beginning of the game, and everybody was in, and I was like, oh, perfect, everybody's in. People are gonna, be in voice and cooperate. But then ended up not being like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like,
yeah, the biggest thing that I would say for keeping people in voice is to tread the line not very carefully of being a shot caller versus being a boss. I do not like to be bossed around when I'm playing. And telling people to, like, saying, like, hey, Doomfist, come back or whatever. You didn't say that, but I've heard it happen. Like, people telling me what to do is what I hate. People telling me information that I can then determine what I should do is better. And I think I'm in the firm camp that says a shot caller should be somebody that provides information for the team rather than tells the team what to do. If you say, like, we're 3 down, let's regroup, that is more important than saying, like, we should regroup. Because if somebody just says, like, regroup, it's like, don't tell me what to do. But if you say, like, we're 5 down, let's regroup, it's like, okay, that's a good reason to regroup. You're providing what the reason is and then what I should do, rather than just saying what I should do. And
I agree.
If you have to pick between telling somebody what to do and just saying the reason, one of those two, I'd just say the reason. Also, this res, I don't know if you go for it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I was asking him. I was like, I don't, like, do you want to be up?
Of course, he's gonna say he wants to be up.
He wasn't in voice. He didn't say anything, and I was like confused.
Well, you'll see him say, like, wait for it.
No, he doesn't. He's not in voice.
I know, but you'll see. I'm trying to point it out. He does, like, the little check mark of, like, understood. So he's, like, wanting you to res him because you're guarding to him. He's like, understood, res me. At this point, it is like.
Can he hear me?
He can't hear you if he's not in voice. But what he can see is if he skips kill cam, which he probably did, is he can see you guardianing to him, like, in his kill cam, and then being like, understood, or, like, a lot of times I'll spam thank you when I think a Mercy's gonna res me. Just because, like, that's a method of communication, right? You should decide. It shouldn't be up to him. You should decide not to res him because, like, his respawn, sure, it's a bit of time, but the biggest thing isn't the time you're saving from him coming back from spawn. The biggest thing is your cooldown. Yeah, that's 30 seconds of not being able to have res, and especially because you're getting, like, they didn't have a whole lot of time. You've got plenty of time. If you then have a bad res, you're getting scarily close to their time. So you have, like, 2 pushes after that. You're basically saying, okay, this push, I'd rather spend 30 seconds rather than 5 to have our Widow now, rather than have somebody else in the fight later.
You up here? Widow, do you want to come up?
Not in voice doesn't do it. But in general, don't do it because now you got 30 seconds of not being able to res anybody. And it's a Widow, so she's very high risk, high reward. If she dies to this Widow in another duel, that's boom, your res wasted. If she picks the other Widow, boom, that's, quote, value from your res, but she could have done that walking out of spawn anyway.
That's kind of flip of the coin.
Yeah.
And it's not something you want to waste a 30-second cooldown on.
No, you don't want to flip a coin for a 30-second cooldown. If you're flipping a coin on, like, a 2-second Guardian Angel, okay. That's a little more okay.
Be aggressive here.
Good positioning here. Worse positioning here. Worstest positioning here. You are now really deep with somebody who moves around a lot and is going for people that you don't want to be next to. Like, in this case, it's a Widow. Like, this, if that hit you, that would have been unfortunate. But it's not unfortunate because you could have been safe right about here. Like, right here, you're exposed only to this. Not a lot of people are over there. It's fine. As soon as you walk around this corner, though, you're exposing yourself to all of this, which there's definitely going to be people looking down that sight line. It's like, even right here, it's like they got a Mei who can pop you out of the air. They got, whatever their team comp is this week. Like, you've got some picks. That's fine. But, oh, okay. I definitely wouldn't pull out the pistol in this case. It is almost always better to damage boost unless you are finishing off somebody. Like, if this Widow, like, it's... this is probably the best case of pulling out your pistol during a Valk in the concept of finishing off somebody who's low, but you should pull out your pistol about now rather than, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have like 4 seconds of Valk that you didn't need to use your pistol for, and then the few seconds afterwards, like, where you still should have been healing. Like, Valk is super valuable. Notice, basically think of it this way. Notice how you don't pull out your pistol very often normally. Keep it that way. Keep the same values as when you Valk. It's like, it just makes you have some unlimited ammo and some flying. That's it. It doesn't make you deal more damage. It doesn't make you land headshots more easily. It's just some another Guardian into the team. Don't ever do that. Like, you've now done it twice. Just stay out of it.
I got May on me pretty bad here.
Again, the Doomfist top off. Oh, you could have played a little more passively in those pillars against the Widow, but, you know, you survived.
I don't know if we can.
Oh, okay. So again, this is one of those times where you can think about, A, is rezzing the Widow in this spot good? In this case, it's not bad nor good. It's just there. B, should I res her at all? And then we'll just stop there. We'll start at should you res her at all. At this point, I would say no, just because Widow isn't super important in this fight, and the time that you spend rezzing her could be better used damage boosting these dudes to kill people off point. If it comes down to it, you'd rather res your Brigitte or your Doomfist or somebody who's more impactful on point, because people are going to be going in and trickling. And Widow trying to kill a Tracer who's trying to, like, contest, as a Widow player, that's not going to be particularly easy. But as a Doomfist player, that's going to be a lot easier. Notice how your Doomfist is the one who's constantly on her and pressuring her. I mean, at this point, it doesn't look like...
Oh, fuck. May's gonna kill me here, I think.
I don't... You guys should win this fight. Like, you should win this, hands down. See, now, notice how your Doomfist is dead. If you res him now, it's like you didn't even lose anybody. But since you res the Widow, it's like I haven't even seen her be impactful in this fight. Maybe it's because she's already dead to the other Widow. But, you know, Doomfist in a contest scenario is much better. This is just one long, like, clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is... Jesus. Right here, good job damage boosting the Winston, by the way.
Yeah, he's got a lot of cleave.
He's got a lot of cleave. You can kill this Lucio is the main thing. Like, Lucio can contest for forever, and your duo DPS of Widow and Doomfist don't deal with a Lucio particularly well. Doomfist is probably the better at it, but, like, still not very. Also, the reason I would suggest resing Doomfist over Widow, too, is Widow still goes back into that coin flip of, does she win the Widow duel? And if the answer is no, then you just blew your 30-second cooldown for the potential to win a little duel.
So, like, I don't know if, like, this is going to be value at all. Like, I basically get picked by the Widow, and then we lose. And then you could see me, like, struggle on, like, our defense to try to rebind my stuff.
Awesome.
Okay, so...
Sucks.
I'm going to start as... Okay, so boom. You see the Widow shot. You should see the Widow shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, your positioning behind the Rhine Shield is good. But remember, it's based on a conditional. So if that Rhine Shield drops, you're then spread cheeks out for this Widow. And you don't want that. Like, he literally turns around to look at who slept, and he exposes you.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
awesome.
look at that. Like, he's just checking for whatever reason. He shouldn't need to do that. And you should be in a spot either closer to the payload where you can crouch behind it, or behind this building or the yellow building, to the point where you're reliable and reliably safe from this Widow.
Get off the payload. Let the Bastion get on first.
What? Why?
Because the Bastion, if he sets up, like, you'll see him struggle to set up. I feel like Bastions who... Like, I like for the Bastion and the Rhine to kind of get on at the same time. Like, I feel like it's really close to the corner. And so the Bastion's going to basically get line of sighted by this payload, I feel like.
I mean, yeah. It's going to force him around this corner, but you don't... Like, you've only got a minute. I mean, this is one of those times where it's both smart, but also not smart. Because, like, you need to push, but you've still got time. I think just the fact that, like... like you said, get off the payload, and this Zarya's just chilling here because she doesn't want to be on payload. But like, notice how this Bastion could have been on payload like a while ago. Like he's on there now. Your Ryan's like Ryan doesn't need to be on the payload this way. If he was smart, you just go around and hop on this way.
Yeah.
Like it's just this strat relies more on just the Bastion and Ryan knowing what they're doing, and in this case they don't. So having you tell them where to go isn't gonna matter much when they already don't know what they're doing. You know? There you go. Ryan figured it out.
But like our Bastion, he's like this whole time he is struggling to get good positioning, and I don't know. It's not like.
I mean, it's because they've got a team that can rotate around super easily. Your thing, your thing should be to avoid line of sight with this Widow, which you see the shot.
Yeah.
You see the shot, and
I
like
even watched the kill cam. Like,
you see that the Anna's up there now. You should already want to get out of there because you want to get slapped. Like the Widow's still back there. She's been back here the whole time. Like, again, rotate around. Like you back up again, and then you uncrouch. And I'm pretty sure if you stayed crouched, you would have been safe from this little like chunk there. I don't know for sure, but like, like she's just not going for you for whatever reason. Like, there you go. I like your Brigitte going for the Venom Mine there in the corner. This is good. Huge. But in general, the Bastion isn't your biggest concern. If he can't get on payload, that's his problem. Your job is to enable him to get on the payload by keeping him alive and keeping yourself alive to keep him alive. In this case, this fight is done.
It was lost, so I was just doing whatever I could.
Doing whatever you could is okay, I guess. If this weren't overtime, I would say this is a bad res if you had more time. But it's a bad res in this case because you'd rather have Reinhardt than a Bastion. Bastion in a contest scenario is really, really rough because he's a sitting duck and he gets focused really easily. Or in this case, slept. I hope he gets slept. We'll see. I heard the sleep dart. She missed. But he should have been slept. You would have been better off resing your Ryan. Just in general, because he gives you something to hide behind, which gives you time for everybody else to respawn. Notice how he gets focused down super quick, and then you follow. If you resed up Ryan, you would have been safe.
I was, I really was nervous about even that res. Like, I thought I was gonna die.
Well, yeah, of course. It's overtime, so you get to omit anything of, hey, I might die. But the target is the key thing. Go for Ryan instead of Bastion.
Yeah.
Ooh, we get some Lucio.
No, not really. This whole time, I'm like, what's the deal with my bindings? So, like, you can see that they're not bound. And then I'm like, what's going on? So I ended up trying to change it, and I completely messed it up. So I normally keep like the boop on 1 and my amp it up on 2, so everything is like on the mouse, and I get really flustered and panicked, and I'm like, okay, I've got my boot back, but I unbound my amp it, and I was like, that's worse. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to get it in time. And I was like, just sit it on heal and hope that I don't throw this. And basically we get just destroyed.
Wow.
I feel really bad. Like, I hope like I really try to win all my games, and
but this one you're just like, what the hell?
This I'm like, I deserve to uninstall. Like, this is that's a huge mistake.
Do you even want me to like go over the Lucio, or do you just want to like call it here?
I don't think there's anything of value here, because like in my head I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, my brain is like, should I stop and bind these keys so I can at least be helpful, or apologize to people, because like there's nothing without it's just bad. I just basically ended up throwing.
And you're contesting, so you're not totally throwing. I mean, you kind of are. The fact that you're not doing anything other than just contest is kind of a throw. Like, I'm not going to go super in depth of these are your wall ride mechanics, these are this, and this, but like, if you're trying to contest, it applies to any hero, just try and do something else at the same time. Like, you're just kind of wall riding back and forth, but you can be shooting and booping. Like, booping people off payload is huge. Like, huge. Whether or not you have amp or not is kind of important, but it's not, like, game-changing when you've got other things of just do other stuff. Also, somebody said 2 hours of Mercy coaching. It's only an hour 45, okay? Chill. I've had longer sessions. Don't underestimate it.
Got to throw.
God, you're there. Yeah. You know, like Twitch chat, aren't they lovely? I'm pretty sure is that Wanderlust? I think. I don't know. Whatever. But now that's the end of the thing. Is there anything that I brought up that you want me to clarify more?
No, I mean, it was like really helpful. I mean, like, I think like toggle beam was like a big one you said. Like making sure I'm staying with the right targets and look around more. And don't just like move into the open. Like when I guardian angel, I need to be making sure that like I need to not use it like, well, I'm guardian, I'm hard to hit, so I can just use it whenever to get out whenever, because like the Hanzo killed me. And then you said most of the time I'm too aggressive and bad positioning is what I got out of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, do you have anything else? And like, be brutal, you know, like.
Oh, I thought I already had been. Like, I can be way more brutal, but the biggest thing is like, I mean, it's already been an hour and 45 minutes. Like, that's a lot. That's a long session. I commend you for being attentive the whole time. It's an impressive feat. A lot of students are checked out after like half an hour of me just yammering. But
oh no, so I think what I'll do is I'll try to implement this and then go over it, and then hopefully I'll have like a good video to follow up and see, like, hopefully there'll be improvement, you know, like,
yeah.
I think it'd be nice to see, like, I mean, do you think that people can get to masters and grandmasters if, like, do you think anybody can, or do you feel like you have to be an elite gamer?
I have coached
You know what I
somebody from high diamond to mid GM. So yes, it is definitely possible. I have queued into that person before. I have queued into another person in GM that I got from like master to GM. It is totally doable. There's like people watching this that can probably be like, yeah, dude, it's doable. There's also people watching this be like, no, it's not possible, just blah, blah, blah. But in general, yes, there are certain things that are required to rank up that much. And I'm not saying that everybody can jump like 1,000 SR from some coaching, but most people can. It's more of there's some outliers that can't.
Got to start somewhere, you know?
Yeah, like so far, everything that you've shown me, even if you were silver, I would still be confident that you could climb a lot because you have a really good attitude and you already sort of know what you're looking for. You know, it's like you can have somebody who's really athletically built, but they just haven't run before, but that doesn't mean they can't be a really good runner. You know, like, yeah, they're born with that, but like you can also have somebody who's a little bit overweight, but you can train that off and they're also going to get to the same spot. Natural talent and training can both like make up for each other. Like, there's one student I have, I won't name names, who has a ton of potential and I hope can climb and I know can climb, but they've got some mentality problems. If I can work on them with that, which I've tried to, then they'll climb super fast. I've also got one that has a really good mentality, but is struggling with some certain mechanics. Like, that's okay. Everybody has their problems. But for you, I think that you're pretty solid in everything so far, from what I can tell, is like you have the potential. I'm not quite sure like what your roadblock will be, but everybody has one. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was stuck in silver and then got on a team where like we played really well together. Like I struggle. I don't believe in an elo hell. Like
That's
think
good.
I think you are where you're supposed to be. And I think I'm one of those people, like, the reason I play video games is because I was in high school sports and I liked the team atmosphere. Like, have you ever heard the saying, like, so the question is, like, do you like to win or do you hate to lose? And from what I was told, the answer is you hate to lose because it's easy to love to win and everybody loves to win. But hating to lose means that you're always going to strive for improvement.
There you
so
go.
like you lose, and it's not like I don't blame others. Like I think every loss boils down to like my performance. Like especially in this one, I feel like we should have won, and I feel like there was a lot of really bad mistakes, and I feel like that's the only way to improve is to have that mentality. But I don't know, like it's kind of a weird tangent.
No, it's total. I'm glad I didn't stop you there because you're basically saying everything that I have said across multiple different VODs, multiple different students. Like you boiled it down pretty well. Like if you if you want to win, like the biggest thing, I don't say, do you like to win or do you hate to lose? The biggest thing I say is, do you want to climb SR or do you want to improve? Like the biggest thing, I think IO Stuck said it, or some other coach, I don't think it was Jane, but some other coach said it, and they're like, do you want to be good or do you want to be better than yourself? Like if you were number 1 on the leaderboard, would you be content? And a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm good. And it's like, no. The player who got to number 1 on the leaderboard will not be content.
Hungry.
He was hungry, like he wanted to improve himself. And now that he's number 1, he doesn't care. Like he's better than everybody else at that time, but he's still not better than he was. And unless he is better than he was, then he won't be happy. Like the players that are at the top are the best, but they got there because they hated being worse than they know they could be. You know? It's kind of it's a similar thing to your tangent, but I tried to mute myself every time I've had a coughing fit, by the way. I think I've missed 1 or 2, but for the most part I think I got them.
No, I really appreciate your help and your time. Like I the fact that you do this for free is, I think, really cool. And I think it says a lot about a person who wants to give back to a community. Like, so I do I really appreciate it, and I do want you to know I take it serious, because it's not just like, I get this is a game, but this is also your time. Like this is 2 hours of your time that you could have been doing something else. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. I'm always happy for like more sessions too if you want.
I'm definitely down. I'm hoping, like, I'd like to play for like 2 weeks and see, like be really, really critical of myself, and then maybe see how, like, I don't know. And like the next one, I'm all for like criticism. So if you can just like, bring the hammer, because I really want to improve. Like I really when I played World of Warcraft, I just did mythic rating for the most part, and this is like, I hate shooters, but there's something about this game that is just, it's not a shooter. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh, no, it does make sense.
There's like Call of Duty, any of those games, I'm like, okay, you shot me, you were mechanically better, who cares? But this
There's
one,
so much more depth to it.
If you outplay somebody, that's the difference between a good player and a bad player. I feel like is like, you don't need to outplay somebody, you've outsmarted them.
Yeah, it's outbraining people.
Yeah, so yeah, I appreciate it, and hopefully I wasn't like too mouthy or
too mouthy. Are you kidding me? Did you hear anything I've said? I'm the mouthy one.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I just want to get in and play.